Hey there, I'm Nick Rothschild here at Broncos HQ with Broncos insider Troy Rank. Troy, little drama out here in Bronco land today. I'm going to call this Kickgate, and it goes back to the game against Sunday against the Falcons.
They have a big game coming up against the Raiders, and we're talking about the kicker and special teams. This is what it's come to at 3-5. But yes, they had a chance to kick a 58-yarder in the first quarter with Brandon McManus. If you remember, Coach Fangio calls a timeout. He says at that point, Tom McMahon, the special teams coach, told him he didn't want to kick it. Call a timeout, and then they still decide to punt. Very odd. Well, then today, Tom McMahon said he based his decision, Nick, on what he saw in pregame. And he said that was kind of why. But then he tangled the web by saying he didn't like what he saw in pregame. That's why they didn't do it. But he didn't like what he saw from McManus in New England specifically, and they let him do it. So which is it? And then McManus goes to Twitter, Nick. Did you see that?
Look, you've got Fangio throwing McMahon under the bus. You've got McMahon throwing McManus under the bus. McManus said the buck stops here. I kicked fine in pregame. Actually, I was fire in pregame against Atlanta. I was worse against New England and the Jets. And you let me kick 50-yarders. Hashtag save the players or hashtag help the players kick long field goals, whatever it was. McManus has a point here, though, Troy. Eventually, the buck has to stop somewhere, and I think you think the buck should stop with the head coach. Surprise, surprise.
Vic Fangio. And the reason I say that is we saw something very similar last year, Nick, with Rich Scangarello, the offensive coordinator. If you remember the end of the Chargers game at Mile High, they decide not to take a knee and they take the long shot, which was cool. Everyone's like, they get interference and they win the game with the aforementioned Brandon McManus. But then Vic Fangio introduces the idea that Rich Scangarello did not want to take the shot, that Coach Fangio did, and that's why they won. It was just unnecessary, and then ultimately it caused friction in their relationship and led them to part ways and lead to Pat Shurmur getting hired. That's why this is an issue. It's an example of Vic Fangio, to me, acting like a defensive coordinator, not the head coach. You're the head coach. It's your decision. If you don't want to kick, it's fine. You don't really need to tell us that you had a conversation with your special teams coach, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that assumed?
Well, look, reminder, Brandon McManus just signed an extension as well. So McManus is going to be here for the long term. McMahon, special teams coach, that bears watching. What else bears watching is on the injury front for the Broncos. They have been absolutely decimated. We did see A.J. Boye and Noah Fant at practice today. Troy, where are we looking for the future, or how are we looking towards the future this weekend?
Well, the injury front has improved dramatically. As you mentioned, cornerback A.J. Boye has cleared the concussion protocol. He will play. Bryce Callahan looks good with his ankle. He should play. And then you look at a guy like Jerry Jeudy, had a shoulder issue. He was back at practice. The one issue is right tackle. DeMar Dotson is dealing with a groin injury. He was working off to the side today, Nick. If he can't go, Jake Rodgers, his backup, is also dealing with an injury. It could be down to Calvin Anderson. Broncos fans don't know much about him, and what I know about him is he can solve a Rubik's Cube essentially in like 30 seconds. He's crazy smart. Can he play? I thought he was going to make the team out of camp and beat Rodgers out and be ahead of Rodgers. He's not right now, but that's a weird place to be, going to Las Vegas with your fourth string right tackle.
Look, Calvin Anderson is a good dude, pretty solid football player, but as you said it, Troy, going into a game against the hated Raiders with your fourth string right tackle, Drew Lock, oh boy, better be careful. That's all today from Broncos HQ. Troy Rank, I'm Nick Rothschild for Denver 7 Sports.